Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and holy birthday, Batman! It's the 75th anniversary year of the creation of the Dark Knight himself, alter ego to Bruce Wayne, the Batman. And I thought what I'd do to commemorate this is briefly run down my top 5 favorite Batman films, from least to most favorite, which segues into my number 2 choice, and that is, of course, The Dark Knight. What can I say about this movie that hasn't been said before? It is probably the closest to perfection of an actual movie, let alone a Batman movie, as you can probably get. And it's probably controversial that it's actually number 2 on my list and not number 1. We have several of the people returning from Batman Begins, Bale, as well as Gary Oldman, as Gordon. You have the additions of Two-Face and Joker. Heath Ledger just stole the show as the character, really, and is got to be one of my favorite, if not my favorite, portrayal of the Joker on screen, but that is not well enough to carry the whole movie and say, okay, that's my number 1 choice. Still, it was a very multi-layered, much like Batman Begins was, story. It had a lot of twist and turn aspects to it that, you couldn't necessarily see coming. The sort of juxtaposition, kind of similarly to how I referenced with Batman Returns, you had Batman facing off against Harvey Dent, Two-Face, who goes through his kind of transformation, which is a parallel to the transformation we see Bruce Wayne go through in the first film, and coming more into his own in the second, trying to find his way more as this vigilante, having to deal with other people kind of copycatting him, and the Joker coming into the entire crime syndicate and saying, you know what, anarchy rules, anarchy reigns, let's watch the world burn, and I'm going to set my sights on this costume fruitcake, this loony with bat wings, and it was just, there's not much I can say to expound upon why this movie is just fantastic. At least to me, it's one of my favorite all-time Batman films, but of course it did get edged out slightly by nostalgia with my number 1 choice, and that is Tim Burton's 1989 Batman, starring, of course, Michael Keaton and the more top-billed at the time, Jack Nicholson as the Joker. What can I say about this movie? When this movie was coming out, I remember just being nothing but excited. It rocked my world. I saw it at least 5 to 6 times in the theaters. When it came out on VHS, I've told this story before in previous Batman-related videos, but I ended up watching that movie so many times. I would start the VHS tape with the Warner Brothers cartoon commercial featuring Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck pimping out Warner Brothers products and Batman hats and everything like that. I would start the VHS tape, watch it from beginning to end, rewind, and do it all over again every day, at least 4 or 5 times a day. And it got to the point where soon thereafter, my parents got nauseated to the point where they could almost, recite the entire movie from beginning to end themselves. So they conveniently, air quotes, lost the tape. And I didn't see that VHS tape again for 10 years. Once my parents passed away, I remember cleaning out one of our old closets, and there I found the tape, which had been conveniently lost because I was just watching it ad nauseum. I was surprised I didn't wear the tape out completely when I found it. I was still watching it even then. Eventually, of course, I caught up with the movie on DVD, and, that's what I own now. But this was a movie that just, again, it was so exciting to me to see a sort of, at the time, realistic take on Batman. Yes, it was still very much comic booky and surrealistic, and Joker was just over the top. I mean, we're talking Jack Nicholson chewing every scene, but doing so well within the confines of this psychotic, hilarious character, made me love the character that much more. I was compelled by the way the character had been portrayed in the comics and the 60s TV series, where it was much more goofy and stuff like that. And then you merge in the cold reality of this psychotic nature of the Joker. It just hit me in all the right ways. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I love everyone in that movie pretty much. You have, of course, Michael Keaton, who I never fell into any of that, sort of disdain on the fact that he was cast in the role. I didn't have any aspect of him being a comedic actor, even though I was familiar with Mr. Mom. It didn't impact me one way or the other to judge that he would be bad in the role. I liked his love interest in Kim Basinger's Vicky Vale. I liked Robert Wuhl's, reporter character Knox and everything like that. Alfred was awesome. Commissioner Gordon was probably the character, most forgettable and most useless in the particular movie. But I loved the idea of this story, in a sense, a young criminal Joker, before he became the Joker, would ever become the Joker, Jack Napier was the one solely responsible for taking Bruce Wayne's parents. And it's sort of falling into this borderline psychosis, wanting vengeance, wanting justice to prevail, adopting that Batman figurehead as a way of putting fear into criminals and all this stuff. And then you have, so many years later, he runs into the same guy who, the boss, Jack Palance's character, is trying to get rid of because he's sleeping with his woman and everything. And all these different aspects, Joker gets dropped into a vat of acid and has a complete makeover that breaks his mind and pushes him completely through the roof as far as psychos go. And them coming together at the end of the film. And because it's really the first that spoke to me on multiple levels. I mean, I enjoyed and laughed a lot with the 60s series, but this was taking something far beyond. It was like, at that point in my life, I didn't understand that this could be done in this kind of way. It could be done in a realistic way. It could be in a dark, stylized way. And it's got to be my favorite Batman movie out of all of them. So that is my top 5 choices for favorite Batman movies from least to most favorites. And I hope you enjoyed listening to this list, my reasons going into a little bit of why I like each of these films. And while they will always stand the test of time as being my all-time favorites that I'll go back to time and time again, and that isn't to discredit things like The Dark Knight Rises and Batman and Robin, even though Batman and Robin to me is a horrible movie, but I can still watch it and enjoy the hell out of it with the sort of campy, riff track mentality of they just went completely nuts. I mean, they doubled up on all of the campiness and the spectacle, as I said, in Batman Forever, and just took it to new levels of what the hell were they thinking, whereas The Dark Knight Rises I felt was a competent movie, but it still had a lot of flaws, and a lot of things didn't quite add up by the end. I loved seeing Bane. That portrayal was absolutely riveting and rocking, and of course Anne Hathaway's Catwoman stole the show for me. That's primarily why I go back to that movie, is her portrayal as Catwoman. And otherwise, I hope this video finds you well. I hope you enjoyed taking this trip down Batman memory lane, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.